we have Juliet sharing this morning. And so excited to have you here. Juliet was a guest on our 200-hour yoga teacher training, a student on the training, and graduated the training in July here in Bali. And we had the most amazing month together. And she is, how many years? Are you 3 years sober? You're 2 years sober.
2 years sober. I got to celebrate my 2-year sober-versary with you guys this summer, which was really special.
Yeah, what a day. That was the day of Kirtan, too.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful day.
Yeah. Amazing. So I was wondering if, Juliet, you could tell us a little bit about like your life before you got sober.
That's a good question. When I shared part of my story this summer, I shared that the first drink I ever had was when I was like 4. My uncle was drinking some brown liquid out of a tiny little glass, and I just wanted what he was having, and he gave it to me laughing. And of course, it was whiskey, and I spit it across the room. So that was my first drink as a young child. And then growing up, my parents, I had 4 parents. My parents divorced and remarried when I was less than 2, both of them. So I grew up with 4 parents, and my dad and my stepmom, they were all regular drinkers, but my dad and my stepmom thought, hey, let's just include her. I guess in their mind, they were just thinking, if we don't make it strange, weird, then maybe she won't get crazy with it. I don't know what she was thinking, but so whenever they did things, it was always like I'll get a little glass of wine, or I'll get, have a drink with them, or what have you. And so that's how it kind of started as a kid. And then, growing up, of course, as a teenager, I drank a lot. And then kind of, through college, in my mind, it was normal that everybody got drunk on the weekends and, and all that kind of thing, or, tequila Wednesdays and, throwing up, to the point of, getting really sick. That was kind of the norm in college. And then fast forward to my, adult life, it started to become that thing that was like, if we're going to celebrate, we're going to drink. And if I've had a hard day, I'm going to have a drink. And if it's the weekend and we're getting together for friends for brunch, well, they're definitely going to start drinking at 9 or 10 a.m. And then it just keeps going like that. And I started to find, and to me, it was all normal because that was what everybody did. And then there were times that I didn't remember the night before. And my family would be upset with me because I did things that embarrassed them, or there were several family events through the years where things got out of control. And anyway, and I've been married twice before and learned some hard lessons. I was with 2 abusive people, and my choices got worse. I thought I was making better choices, but they got worse. And definitely alcohol didn't help things. And in the second relationship, it became this party mode that got really out of hand. And again, very abusive, emotionally abusive. And so there was a few times I remember, maybe it was like 25 years ago, I got sick. I got some kind of infection. The doctor told me, okay, you need to take this medicine, but you absolutely cannot drink at all while you're taking it. And I remember going home and looking at the bottle of medicine and going, nope, I'm going to have a drink. And just looking back, how ridiculous it was that was my priority over my health. And then, later on in my second marriage, and it becoming so emotionally abusive, and there was a lot of partying going on, and it just escalated to me blacking out all the time. And even me thinking it's cute that I have bottles of wine and all this stuff by the bedside and sending my daughters to go get me another drink, it's just it. And to them, that became normal to see me like that, so I got out of that relationship. I I was diagnosed with a pretty severe nerve disorder during that time. And truly it was debilitating to the point where I had to take really strong medications and I couldn't drink. So I was sober for a year and a half, and I was like, oh, wow, that's what this is like. Of course, the medication I was on was maybe even worse because it made me really strong narcotic type stuff that I had to be on. And so that was problems in itself. But I wasn't drinking for a year and a half, and I finally got better. And I just remember I was divorced then. It was just my daughter and I, and thinking, I just want to have a little sip of wine. I just want to feel normal again. And so that's how it started. And then I got off the medication from being ill. And so I started drinking again. And then it was worse than ever. And then I'd go through bouts where it was like, well, maybe I'll just drink on the weekends. And that would last a few hours until I was like, I'll just have one glass. And it was never just one. And so that happened every night. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, I just gained 50 pounds in a year. And it was because I met, and not listen, I'm not blaming, this is me. I met my current husband. We were so happy. And we were just like, let's go out every night. And yeah, let's share a bottle of wine or two. And it was just, we were living this happy life. And I was then using alcohol as just celebration. And then next thing you know, it was 65 pounds. And I was miserable all the time. I was unhealthy and I couldn't figure out why. I wasn't sleeping well and my back hurt. And I was going into the hospital fairly regularly for heart issues and blood pressure issues. And I never had energy and I just felt terrible. And so for me, there was just a breaking point of, because there was a cycle of like, okay, I'll only do it on the weekends or I'll cut back, and I couldn't do it. And so I was like, that's it. I can't live like this anymore. I feel terrible in my body. And, yes, I can love myself in whatever size I am, but I don't like how I feel. And I'm not okay with that. And so I made a really conscious choice of, I want to get healthy. And in my mind, it never occurred to me that I had a problem with alcohol. That wasn't even on the table. It was just, I want to get healthy and feel good. And logically, I knew if I'm going to lose this 65 pounds and get healthy, I can't drink. And so I sat down with my husband and I said, I can't do this. And I know that I can't be around it. If I see it, I'm going to drink. If you offer it to me, I'm going to drink. So he was 100% on board. And he didn't drink at all with me just to support me. And I ate really, really healthy. And I did not drink a drop. And, I lost weight. I lost all 65 pounds and I felt really good. And I was like, wow, I feel really good. And I still had not acknowledged that the alcohol thing was even a part of it. And then I was at a teacher conference by myself, and I was wandering around San Antonio, Texas, downtown. And I walked up on this sign and it said, no alcohol beyond this point. And I looked at it, and right in that moment, it occurred to me, oh my gosh, it was 1 year today. It was 1 year today that I made the decision to stop drinking. And I took a picture with me and the sign, and I was just like, wow, this is really significant. And the universe was talking to me, and I made a decision right that moment. I was like, that's it. There is no alcohol beyond this point. I am done, because I made it. And I felt good. And I recognized, yes, I lost weight and I got healthy and my body felt good. But what I was doing was allowing this thing to just take over my life and, trying to cover up anything with alcohol. And so, yeah, that was a long answer to your question, but that was the point that got me there. And it wasn't until that point, a year after being sober, that I looked back and went, oh my gosh, I really had a problem. Like, it is not normal to get blackout drunk. It is not okay to do that. And I hate that that is something that's normalized in our society, or at least it seems like it is to me. You know, we're going to party, we're going to drink, we're going to have brunch. Well, we got to drink, you know, like everything is, we got to drink, we got to drink. And, yeah, so that's my, pre-sober story in a nutshell.
For sharing that. It's so true that it's so, things are so normalized. Like I talk about this at one point in my book, but you know, in the Middle East, it was like normal to be day drinking. Like in the middle of the day, it's like normal to be like playing flip cup at like 2 p.m. in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And so I was like, there's like nothing abnormal with me day drinking. And so I can so relate to that aspect of like, because it's so normalized, it takes like a lot of distance. And sometimes even like for myself too, it was like I was underway on the journey before I made that realization.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm past that, but it almost was like I was in a fog, and now like I can see. And then it's hard because you see people around you that are still just like living in that life of like, no, it's normal. And of course I'm not going to drink. I mean, I'm not going to put my glass down, or I'm not going to be sober. And you know, that's their journey, but it's still, it makes my heart just be like, oh, I wish you could see what it feels like on the other side. So.
Yeah. So what was like when you first got sober, or in that first alcohol-free year, like what were the big changes beyond like your physical health? Like what did you notice?
Oh my gosh. I noticed that like I wanted that high before to feel good, but there were so many things that made me feel even better. By not drinking, you know, having this energy and be able to do things, and it just the giddy, you know, euphoric feeling of spending time with my family or enjoying the day, getting up early and seeing the sunrise. Like, it sounds so cheesy, but I was getting such a better high out of like living my life fully and thriving in my life and feeling good, that I was like, wow, I not only do I not need that, like it was taking my happiness away. It was taking my joy away. And I didn't understand that until I came out of it. So I think that was my biggest.
Thanks for sharing that. I can totally relate to that. Like, and we don't even see how much it's blocking that feeling away because we just don't know, like when we're on the other side. So, and I remember that picture you're talking about, no alcohol beyond this point. I remember seeing it in Sober Girls Yoga magazine when you submitted it a year ago. But maybe it's a bit less than a year ago. So tell me about then this path of like, okay, how did you get into yoga, and like, how did you find yourself coming to the YTT?
Yes. Okay. Well, that's a fun story. So, you know, I've always been kind of drawn to yoga. I love how it makes me feel, and it's never stressful in my body. It feels like just like a gift. It's just, it's all warm and fuzzy. It feels good. And I was a theater director teacher for 22 years. And so I would start my acting classes doing like a little yoga warm up and things like that. Well, fast forward to I was a year sober. It was the same summer that I saw that sign, and I came home. I have a swimming pool in my backyard, and this teacher friend of mine, her name's Connie. She had reached out and said, I want to come hang out with you in your pool. And I was like, girl, come over. We've known each other for 20 years. But we've never really got to hang out like that. And so I invite her over. We're floating in my pool, sipping on mocktails. And, you know, I was telling her about my sober journey, getting healthy. And I was telling her about, I had just found a new studio locally, and I was really getting into yoga because after being a year sober, I was like, I want to do something else to make me feel good. I think I'm going to get into yoga. And I tried some studios, and I finally found one that I really, really love that teaches all of yoga, right? Like the sutras and meditation and everything. I was like, oh yes, this is my place. So anyway, I was sharing that with her as we're floating in the pool, and Of course, we're talking about all her exciting adventures about teaching all over the world. And she taught with you, Alex, in Kuwait, right? In Kuwait, Connie did? Yes. And so she's listening to me talk about being sober and my yoga journey. And she was like, you really need to talk to my friend Alex. And she told me about how, you left teaching to start your own yoga retreat company, and she was kind of describing it. She does these retreats all over the world, like in Bali and India. And I was like, what? That sounds amazing. And so she told me your name, and like I literally leapt out of that pool and grabbed my phone to go look it up. And as I was looking at all of it, I shared it with my husband that night, and we were just like, oh, this is so cool. And we saw that, in the following summer, there would be a retreat in Bali. It's like a month long. And, my husband and I are, we travel together. We do everything together. I think we've barely been away from each other for like maybe a night or something. And so looking at something me a month away, it was like, well, that's cute, but there's no way we could be, a whole month, it just seemed so far-fetched. But I had been looking into yoga teacher trainings because I thought, wow, that would be a really awesome goal. I would love to do that. And I had just gotten my master's degree a year or two before. And so I was kind of itching to learn something new. And anyway, so we looked at that, but kind of, my husband was like, the price isn't bad for going to Bali and getting your certification. But I kind of shelved that, like that's so far-fetched for somebody like me. I'm just a teacher. But then maybe a month or so later, we were, my yoga studio was hosting like a community event, and there was a bunch of friends I had made. We were all chatting, and two of the women we were chatting with were both recent yoga teachers. And we were just standing there chatting, and one of them turned to the other and said, man, wouldn't it have been cool though if we had gotten our teaching certification in someplace cool like Bali? And my husband and I just whipped our heads at each other, and he kind of leaned in and whispered to me, he's like, did you tell him about Alex's Bali trip? And I said, I haven't talked to anybody. And so we kind of went on with our night. And then when we got in the car that night, we were just driving home. It was real quiet. And all of a sudden he just popped up. He goes, you're going to Bali. This has to happen. This is important. This is special. The universe is talking to us. You're going. And I just started sobbing. Because, for all the reasons, I was like, I had spent my whole life thinking I'm not worthy of anything special like that. Like, how do I deserve anything? Like, it would never even occur to me that I get to have something like that. And, we do okay for ourselves, but, even a trip like that would be like a once in a lifetime. Let's save up and make that happen. And he did. He made it happen. And so, I knew it was going to be a long flight, and that 33 hours, I could hardly sit still. And the second I got off the plane, it was just like my whole body just started tingling. I was so excited. And every single second there was just such a beautiful experience. And I learned so much. Of course, from you, Alex, you're just the most amazing teacher. But my gosh, all the teachers we had. Sarah, everybody. And then even I count, Mike's, our days off, and Ubud and me. I was just like, I'm going to not waste one single second. And I went and found every healer and, sound healer and shaman and whatever Balinese teacher. I found every class I could and took them all. And I learned so much. I was like, I'm not wasting a single second of this. And it's just such a treasure, the whole memory. So thank you.
It was beautiful. As you were talking, I wish we recorded this. Like, I forgot to ask at the beginning if we could record it. And I was like, this is the most beautiful, experience. So maybe we'll have to get together and re-record it if you're open to it.
Well, I am doing a little audio recording for myself so I can share it with you. I've just started talking.
please share with me. That would be what. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's so beautiful to hear it from your perspective of like the journey to getting there, and your perspective of the whole month.
Oh wow! I mean, what a magical experience. I don't know how else to explain it. And all the women, I mean, here come all these different women from all over the world with all different stories and paths coming together. And my gosh, just every single person, so inspiring. And just, my heart is so big for all of it and for everyone.
And that's something I love about you. And I remember I said this to you on the last day of the YTT is like, I feel like you have the biggest heart and like the most compassion for everyone. And something I really admire because you can really, I really am aware of it. Like when I encounter people who are really like, all I ever heard you say was like good things about other people, you know, and I really kind of feel it. And I think it's a really beautiful quality to have.
Thank you. I will say I've always been somebody who's really drawn to working with people and feel compassion and whatnot. However, since my yoga studies, with my studio, and then of course also with you and all the trainings I've done, man, what a perspective shift in me just overall. When I encounter things that would typically, or maybe in my past life really be upsetting or make me angry or get me really riled up, I always find myself looking for that silver lining and being like, nope, this is, like the darkness comes with the light and the light comes with darkness, and just appreciating all of it. And and in my past life, there was a lot of, maybe just to myself, mental judgment of others. Like, oh, wow, I don't want to look like that. Or, oh, at least I don't drink that much, or things like that. And what I realized afterwards is, yeah, I did. I did look like that. If you want to have some whatever negative sense I was thinking, or worse. And yes, I was drinking as much as them or worse, but I mentally just don't do that anymore. I find that I am always looking at the best in people and the situations I'm in. And even if they're really, really hard, which I've had some pretty big situations come up recently, I just such a change in perspective of like, no, these are things that happen and I'm supposed to learn from this. And what am I grateful for? And just taking a moment to do that. So
yeah, love that.
I love how yoga has made me better, made me a better person.
Yeah. And that's truly like what the practice is. It goes well beyond that, little segment of like the poses.
Oh, so far beyond. I feel like for me, asana practice is very meditative. It definitely gets me out of my head and gets me really centered and focused. And then when I'm doing meditation, I can go even deeper. But then all the other practices, I just see it so much intertwined in my life, every day in everything I do. And every time I catch that in myself, I just stop and I'm so grateful. Like, wow, what a positive change. What a positive influence. It's awesome. And it makes me want to just share that with everyone.
So what are your plans post your YGT? Like, tell us what's next.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I have several plans. One thing is I am a teacher, so I don't teach theater anymore. I teach early college, but I want to incorporate mindfulness in the classroom. And for like 20 years, I've been hosting workshops and teaching teachers as a teaching mentor. And so I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting today, I'm going to be teaching at a conference here this next Friday, mindful teachers, mindful students. So that's kind of the baby step in, but I want to do more. So I want to teach at more conferences and help more incorporating mindfulness in the classroom, and simple things like breath work or a mindful minute at the beginning of class to get students grounded, and things like that. And then stepping away from education, I am working on creating a business. Before I got into yoga, I was a health coach helping others get healthy and really focusing on how they were eating and what they were eating and just in a natural way, living and eating and healthy. But as soon as I realized I was a year sober, I was like, I want more. And that's why I started incorporating yoga. And so trying to combine all that, and then, so working with you, trying to figure out what my niche was. And I really feel like I love working with women. I just feel such a connection with that. And being someone who is a single mom, being someone who's been in abusive marriages more than once, who dealt with, being, my own sober journey and other things, traumas that I've been through. I feel like that this is and 25 years of teaching, I feel like I can take all of this and perhaps I can help others. So I'm working on I have a retreat planned for early November. And I am going to be leading, or I've led a few yoga practices. One is at a local event in October. And, I've done some pop-ins at the school. Like I taught yoga to the softball team. And, I taught yoga once a week to all the teachers at my school last year. And so just moving forward, working on that business and branching out, maybe doing some public speaking with some of those ideas of incorporating mindfulness and of course, the sober aspect into our lives to just live healthier lives. But especially for women who are like, I'm ready. Like, I think there's this time in our lives when you look back and you're like, this is not my story. And I want something different and I'm ready to make that shift. And I really want to help women with that. Like, I'm ready to have my midlife makeover or whatever you want to call it and take control and start over. And I think it's important that you've had that journey yourself. And since I have, and it's been successful and I have, several things to offer, I want to be able to offer that to others. So that's what I'm working on.
Amazing. Okay, I have one more question for you, which is if you had any advice you would give to someone who is curious about going on an alcohol-free journey or starting maybe like any kind of like big transition, what advice would that be?
My advice would be allow yourself to be sober curious and think about how you feel the way you are. Maybe even write that down. How do you feel? And then take that plunge and just know, it's okay. I know that maybe in the moment, I know for myself, I didn't acknowledge or understand that I had any issue. And so if maybe that's you're thinking, I don't really have a problem. Well, okay, but let's just give it a try. What if you try being sober curious and then notice how you feel afterwards? And what do you have to gain? And how does my body feel? And what other ways can I celebrate that doesn't involve alcohol? I also, if I was talking to a girlfriend and I was saying, hey, I would say, get support from around you. Set the people in your life down and say, I need you to support me on this, because I know for myself that made everything different. That was the change that I hadn't had before, was talking to my husband saying, I need you on board with me, because if you drink, I'm going to drink. And if you offer me one, I'm going to take it. And having that person in my life on board with me, or talking to your friends and having them on board with you so that you have that support. Even if it's sober curious, just knowing, like, set a date and then see how you feel and then try it a little bit more. But give it a try and then ask yourself, how do I feel now? And I know for me, I felt so much better. It was hard in the beginning. And I did some little tricks that were helpful. Like I gave Sarah a little post about my trick is whenever we went out to eat, I would ask for sparkling water in a wine glass. And so that I had a wine glass in my hand and I felt like I had a special drink, and it worked. It's so silly, but it worked. If I was at a party, I'd always have my own cup with my little mocktail in there, and I had my little special sparkly water, and that kind of helped me over the hump. And then once I got past that, and I was like, I didn't want it anymore because I felt so good. And I was so proud. It was like, I made it, this long. I made it a whole year. I'm not going to give that up because I don't want to lose that. And I was so proud of myself. So hope maybe that will inspire someone to just give it a try and see how you feel, because you're definitely going to feel better in your body. Man, what a difference.
Yeah, it absolutely will inspire people. And I'm really glad that you recorded this, because with my Wi-Fi and jumping off and then on my phone, I didn't even think to ask you. And then as you got going, I was like, wait, this is so inspiring. And so I really want to put it as a Sober Yoga Girl podcast episode. So it was just wonderful. So I hope you can send it to me after. And thank you so much, Juliet, for your time. And we have a couple minutes left here. So if anyone, I think I saw Robin's hand. Do you have a question? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was wondering, did you have anything besides yoga when you started your Sober Curious journey? To, any other tools? Did you have a community that was separate from everything else in your life?
That's a really That's a great question. I actually, Robin, I didn't even touch yoga until about the time I was at a year sober, but I did have a community on my healthy journey. So, I saw a friend online who had kind of dove into this healthy practice of eating, and I reached out to her. And so she brought me on board and kind of taught me what she was doing. And that's the same thing that I'm working with now, helping others. But and I did have a community, and I think that's it, isn't it? Is that you just have to find a community, whether it's something like this, or, I had my healthy eating community, but I had a community to focus on something that was healthy, whether that be yoga, or that be like I'm gonna have a walking group or a knitting group, or anything that's something that's not related to alcohol, right? Or something that's going to keep you mind focused, healthy. So for me, that group, I was so fixated on living a healthy life. And part of that was, you're going to be sober while you do this. And I committed to that. And then through that time with that community, I did goal setting. I did all kinds of mental health work. It wasn't just, what I'm putting in my mouth. It was what's going on up here. And, reestablishing my relationship with what I was putting in my body, whether that be alcohol or ice cream or other things that I shouldn't be putting in my body, right? But just living that healthy lifestyle. But truly, I didn't even touch any kind of exercise or yoga until like a year into it. Yeah. So, but I think you touched on something though. Community is so important. And I will say though, after, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I found a sober community not related to Alex, on Facebook that I was following. And I personally felt like it was almost a little bit triggering, because people were talking about all the things that they were doing wrong and falling off the wagon. So for me, I actually had to step back from that, because it was actually doing the opposite to me. It was triggering me. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't do that anymore. So I wished, I gave people good encouragement and wished them well, but I had to kind of set that aside. So for me, finding something separate from alcohol that we didn't talk about, like it just wasn't a subject to talk about. It wasn't something. So with the healthy eating group, everybody's being healthy, so they're choosing not to drink just naturally, right? But then when I found my yoga community, they're all about health and wellness. So I mean, even if it was a painting community or knitting community, right, or something, anything, book club, something where you have community and it doesn't focus on something negative like putting drugs or alcohol in your body. So finding that community really helped me. So thank you. That was a really good question.
Thank you.
Amazing. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Juliet, for sharing your story. It was beautiful and inspiring. And thanks everyone for joining. And next week is the end of the month reflection. So we'll be here to journal and reflect and set intentions for October.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Juliet. It was great to hear your story.
Thank you, Sarah. It's so good to see you.
Everybody. Bye, everyone. See you soon.